All right, let's crack the code on a topic that is super high yield for your board exams: myeloproliferative neoplasms, or MPNs. The whole idea is actually pretty simple. Just think of your bone marrow as this busy factory that's supposed to be making blood cells. Well, in MPNs, that factory has basically gone rogue. It's a full-on rebellion leading to this chaotic overproduction of mature cells. Our mission today is to give you the mental algorithm to spot this rebellion and absolutely nail the diagnosis.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with a classic case, the red flag patient. Then we'll use what I call the critical EPO compass to figure out which way to go. After that, we'll zoom in on the molecular level to find the always-on switch causing all the trouble. We'll expose a really common exam trap, the dry tap, and then we'll pull it all together with the final MPN matrix to lock it in for exam day.
Okay, let's set the scene. You know how every single one of these high-stakes exam questions starts, right? It's always a clinical vignette. It's a little story designed to test your diagnostic thinking from the very first clue. So let's meet our patient.
So here he is. We've got a 50-year-old guy, and his labs come back with a Hematocrit of 60%. Now remember, Hematocrit is just the percentage of blood made of red cells, so 60% is, whoa, incredibly high. His blood is literally getting too thick. But here's the classic can't-miss clue. He says he gets this intense, maddening itch right after taking a hot shower. That, my friends, is aquagenic pruritus, and it's a massive red flag for polycythemia vera.
And there it is, the classic board-style question. You see a hematocrit this high, what is your single most important next best step? Get this right and you're on the path. Get it wrong and you're falling right into a diagnostic trap.
Your next best step, and the compass for this entire workup, is to check the serum erythropoietin, or EPO level. This one test is the critical fork in the road. It's going to tell you whether this factory rebellion is an inside job or if it's being triggered by some signal from the outside.
And this one test frames the entire differential diagnosis. See, on one hand, you could have secondary polycythemia. That's an extrinsic problem. Think of something outside the marrow, like chronic lung disease causing hypoxia. The kidneys sense that and start pumping out tons of EPO to compensate. So the EPO is high, but it's an appropriate response. But on the other hand, you have primary polycythemia. This is an intrinsic marrow problem. The factory itself has gone haywire. The body sees all these extra red cells and tries to slam on the brakes by slashing EPO levels. So finding a low EPO level in our patient, that's the smoking gun for a primary marrow disorder.
This lays out the exact algorithm you need to have burned into your brain. Step 1, you spot the high hematocrit. Easy enough. Step 2, you check the EPO. If that EPO is low, you know for sure the factory is ignoring the stop signals. And that leads you directly, logically, to step 3. You have to find out why the factory is out of control. So you test for the JAK2 mutation.
Ah, the JAK2 mutation. This is the root cause of the rebellion. We're now moving from the patient's itchy skin all the way down to the molecular level to really understand this genetic screw-up, the always-on switch.
The specific culprit, in over 95% of polycythemia vera cases, is something called the JAK2 V617F mutation. Now, normally, the JAK2 protein is like a light switch that needs a finger, in this case EPO, to turn it on and start cell production. But this specific mutation, it jams the switch in the on position. It becomes constitutively active. It doesn't need a signal anymore, it's just on.
And this is the absolute key to understanding this disease. With that JAK2 mutation, the cell-making machinery just does not care that EPO levels are in the basement. It doesn't need that external signal. It's got its own internal always-on switch, and it's just churning out red blood cells 24/7. And that's what leads to that dangerously high hematocrit. Okay, now for a classic board exam trap. That always-on switch, well, it can't run forever without consequences. Over time, that factory can just burn out. And this leads to the devastating end stage of some of these MPNs, myelofibrosis. Recognizing this progression is key, and it all starts with the dry tap trap. I want you to burn this phrase into your memory, seriously. Examiners love to test this because it forces you to connect a bunch of different clinical findings. If you see the clues for myelofibrosis, you've got to be able to recognize it instantly. Let's connect the dots here. So the overworked marrow gets replaced by scar tissue. That's the fibrosis. So when you go to do a bone marrow biopsy, you try to aspirate, and you get nothing. It's a dry tap. Since the main factory is shut down,
blood production has to move somewhere else, mainly the spleen, which causes it to become absolutely massive. And here is the classic pathognomonic finding on a blood smear. As red blood cells try to squeeze their way out of that scarred-up marrow, they get stretched out of shape, forming teardrop cells, which are also called Dacrocytes.
Okay, so we have covered the key logic, from the first symptom to the final pathology. Now it is time to lock it all in. This final matrix is designed for that rapid-fire recall you need when the clock is ticking on exam day. Let's run through it.
All right, let's lock this in. Polycythemia vera. Think itch after shower, low EPO, JAK2 positive. Next, essential thrombocythemia. Think burning pain in the hands, that's called erythromelalgia, from all the platelets clogging up the vessels. Key lab is, of course, crazy high platelets, also often JAK2 positive. And finally, primary myelofibrosis. Massive spleen, teardrop cells, and, you guessed it, JAK2 positive. See how that JAK2 mutation is common across all of them? That's exactly why the specific clinical clues are everything for making the right diagnosis.
So you've totally mastered the logic now for a factory that's overproducing mature cells. You got this. But what happens when the rebellion changes? What if the factory stops making too many good cells and starts churning out defective, immature cells, blast cells that can't even do their job? Well, that's not an MPN anymore. That's when we enter the world of acute leukemia. And we'll explore that next time.